Hi everyone, good evening. My name is 𝐂𝐎𝐍𝐍𝐄𝐂𝐓. I will be taking you through the module for wireframing for BAs, a walkthrough of balsamic. Now, this title is very deliberate. Wireframing has a number of things in the IT profession. There, there what they call it, processes that are done by more than one role. So wireframing is actually something that is done by mainly by UI and UX designers. So you have solution designers, or you have user experience or user interface designers. They use some of these tools as well, but BAs also use the tool. So when you're looking for information regarding wireframing, look for wireframing for BAs. If you just put wireframing online, you mainly see a lot of wireframing for UI and UX designers, and that's not really what we want to do. They go into detail that we don't need to go into, and they use concepts that we don't really use. So when it's specific that it's wireframing for BAs, and it's a walk through balsamic because there are many different wireframing tools. We'll touch on some of them during this course very, very briefly. But the main tool we use for our projects is balsamic. And that's what you've all been given access to, apart from one or two of you that still have issues, which we'll resolve. So we'll just spend maybe about 30 minutes just talking through what wireframing really is and how you use it. But for the rest of the session, we're going to open balsamic and we're going to go through how to actually do it. So a third of this will be theoretical and 2/3 will be practical. So it's being recorded. I will go through it really fast. As you know by now, my classes, they're really fast. There's a lot of text, but it's recorded, so you can always go back and review all of it. Okay. So again, just going to go through what exactly is wireframing, what are some key concepts, components, benefits. Then we'll go straight into using balsamic. As always, you have a take-home task. There will be time for Q&As as well. We can do that toward the end. Actually, I don't really mind if you want to ask a question during the session, unmute and ask the question. I can't see your hand up, so if you raise your hand, I probably won't see it until I stop sharing. But if you want to, you want some clarity, or you have any question regarding what I'm talking about, feel free to unmute and just go like, Uzo, I have a question or something. Otherwise, if you have a question and you want to wait till the end, write it down so you don't forget it. Yeah, these questions can be really insightful, so I don't want us to lose them. And then the pro tip I have is, for wireframing, like everything else, don't fall in love with your first draft. It's supposed to be iterative. There's always going to be amendments. There are going to be things that you need to change. So if you spend so much time, creating a wireframe, and you share it with your PO or your project team, and they tell you, no, remove that, add this, you didn't do it this other way, blah blah blah, and you get offended, then that's on you. So this is literally a draft, or it's a visual tool for people to talk through what the application is supposed to look like. It's not meant to be a one and done thing. So yes, take your time, pay attention to detail, make it really good, but just know that once you present it to a stakeholder, there is a liability that they're going to ask you to make amendments, and you can do that quickly as well, as many times as you need to. That's actually why we're using this tool. We want to do all the amendments here before it actually goes into development, because then that's money and that's time. This one, we can make amendments easily. When development is done, to make amendments there is, yeah, that's a lot more expensive, let me just put it that way, and time consuming. So welcome to wireframing. Okay, so wireframing is your visual representation. It's usually used for software applications, and it shows you what it should look like. So what does the layout look like? What does the structure look like? And again, it always focuses on the user experience. So you're always sharing your wireframe from how the user will interact with that application. Okay, if you have a wireframe that doesn't have a user in it, then it's not a proper wireframe. It always has to be from the user's perspective. So what will the user see when the user does something and another page is displayed? How will it display? How will the layout look? What would it look like? Yeah. So again, just think of it as your picture. All the text you write in your user stories and your acceptance criteria, the wireframe is a visual representation of what that would actually look like. Okay. So again, benefits of wireframing are so many, right? It helps you plan. I just finished saying that now. Your wireframe is literally a planning tool. It's like a drafting tool. And the PO tells you what the requirement is. In your mind, you've pictured it, but no one can see what you have in your mind. So you create a visual representation of what your understanding of the requirements, and you share it with the PO, and the PO says, yes, brilliant. Yes, that's exactly where it should be. Oh no, move this down, move this to the left, move it to the right, and all of that. So that by the time it is the developers and the QAs see the visual representation of your user story, they can replicate it. They can just design it, and they know that everything is sitting where it's supposed to sit. Okay? Think of it the other way around. If not, everything is verbal or everything is written down, there's no visual to it. So the developer has taken what you've written and they're thinking of it in a different way. You're thinking of it in a different way. Your PO is thinking of it in that's three different ways of picturing the same thing. By the time the developer comes back, then you're now using the development to say, oh no, 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 move this, move this. It's such a it's not a good use of time and the resource you have, most of which are very expensive. Time is usually short. So this is the way to get around that. Okay. And again, the third part of this would be introducing balsamic, right? It's a like I said, there are many different wireframing tools. But the good thing about a lot of IT tools is when you know how to use one, chances are you know how to use the other. If you know how to use Azure DevOps, if someone puts Jira in front of you, chances are you know how to use it. You just need to brush up on a few things and familiarize yourself with a few things. So if you know how to use Balsamic, you understand how wireframing works. So if someone puts maybe a Figma in front of you or a mirror in front of you, yes, you may need to learn a bit more, but you're not a complete novice because you already know how wireframing works. But again, Balsamic is a really good tool used by BAs and some UI UX designers, and it creates low fidelity sketches or visual images. Low fidelity means that we're not really focused on e- exactly how it looks. It's a pencil sketch. Have you seen someone use a pencil to draft something? They're not putting in the right color. They're not putting in they're just doing a quick sketch, right? Just to show you where everything sits. But when you're talking about, oh, I want the color to be like this, and I want then you're now going into high fidelity. You want an exact replica of what the website would look like. That's not balsamic. Balsamic is quick, quick, quick. Just give me a quick sketch of what everything will look like, right? I'll show you what it looks like, but it looks hand drawn. It looks like someone is drawing with their hands. Not like you can't get into more detail, but all we need for what we need is hand drawn. We don't need to go into detail. So don't spend time adding, frills. It's not that kind of tool. It's a quick tool, right? And because of how we work here, you have to have a wireframe for every user story. There's no time to be going into detail. We just want something really quick that can just show exactly what you're talking about. So this tool is very, very good for what we do here. Okay. So again, our this whole course would be introducing what wireframing is to you, and then going through balsamic and how we can use it to create those wireframes. All right. So Again, what is wireframing? That's an image for you. Remember, I said low fidelity, hand drawn, pencil sketches. All these are things to describe what it eventually looks like. Literally, someone is drawing on a pencil or with a pencil and paper, right? But it's very, very crucial. It's a crucial process that is usually used for websites and applications, software applications. That's what it is. I've explained what low fidelity is. It's a visual representation of the user interface, and it's like a blueprint, right? It just shows you where everything should sit, the layout, the structure, right? It doesn't go into colors, it doesn't go into text. If you're going to put words, it will probably be one or two words. But when you want to talk about like a whole page about us, you now want to write, that's not what balsamic is for. We just want, like, okay, if you click on this button, the button says login, click on login button, this other button says password, this other button says homepage, that kind of thing. So it's all very quick and done really quickly. Again, it helps you as the BA to translate your understanding of what the requirement is and confirm it with the PO. So wireframes are usually part of your refinement process. Once you've done your elicitation, you've gotten what the requirement is, you're documenting it as a user story, you add the wireframe, and then when you go back for refinement, your PO is looking through all those three elements. They're looking through the user story description, they're looking through your acceptance criteria, and they're looking through your wireframe, and everything has to line up. If any of these three elements don't line up, then there's a problem. So a lot of people, they don't put they so it's one of two things I've found when people are starting to use balsamic, right? In the acceptance criteria, they add all the detail, but when they're creating the wireframes, they don't add that much detail. Or conversely, they don't add that much detail in the acceptance criteria, but then they now make the wireframe really, really detailed. They add all the elements. If the acceptance criteria and the wireframe are not if the wireframe is not a replica of the acceptance criteria, there's a problem. Remember, it has to be a visual representation. It's like you're taking a picture, right? They say a picture is worth 1,000 words, right? If someone takes a picture of you and you're dark skinned, you're not suddenly going to become light skinned. If you have long hair, you're not suddenly going to have short hair. If not, that's not a real representation of who you are. So your acceptance criteria and your wireframe have to match. If they don't match, then there's a problem, because your testers cannot test a wireframe. They test the acceptance criteria. All those steps have to be there. And then if you put it in the wireframe and you don't put it in the I beg your pardon, if you put in the acceptance criteria but you don't put it in the wireframe, they're going to go like, there's a problem here. These two things don't match up. Yes, I can test it, but it doesn't look like what it's supposed to look like. So as a BA, always make sure that they all line up. In fact, like I said, all the three elements of your user story have to line up. Your as a, I want, so that has to line up with your given, when, then, which also has to line up with your wireframe. They're all part of the same user story. There has to be that uniformity. If any of them is out of sync, then there's a problem. So if your PO changes something in your wireframe, make sure you change it in your acceptance criteria, and vice versa. If they change something in your acceptance criteria, oh no, it's not on the left, you have to move it to the right, or it's not at the top, you have to move it to the bottom. You must make sure that it's done in the wireframe as well, and the acceptance criteria, everything has to match up. Okay. All right. So the importance of the wireframe is that it defines what the system functionality is before development begins. Before development begins. That's why your wireframe has to be part of your story before it gets committed, before it even gets approved. The only reason your user stories were approved yesterday when you started sprint planning is because you haven't had this class. Your POs know you've had this class. Going forward, they're not going to approve any stories without the wireframe. Why? Because there has to be that cohesion between the three elements of your user story, right? So they don't want the developer to spend time and money. Sometimes the developer is confused. They may think that they understand what the acceptance criteria is, but by the time they start developing, they have questions. Oh, I don't know where this is supposed to be. They will stop and then they'll come back again. I want to find out from the BAs. All that is time wasted, and time costs money. So you don't want a situation where your developers start developing without seeing what the layout actually looks like. Okay. Again, your PO is your business stakeholder. They've told you what the requirements are. But your developers and your QAs, they have technical capability. They need to understand the technical aspects of creating that um, requirement or that user story of developing it. So your wireframe is the thing that translates the business needs to technical language that the not even language to just show them what it looks like, right? So your technical team knows exactly what the requirement is and how it should look, right? Again, it reduces miscommunication because you're all working from the same page. You're all aligned and everybody knows exactly what's going to happen. Okay. It identifies any usability issues early. So if the requirement is that, oh, this button should if I click on this about us button, it should take me to a particular page. When you create the wireframe, I can say, oh, this thing, it doesn't work. Let's change the position of the button, or let's change how it responds when the user clicks on it, because you've shown them what it looks like. So they can see now that, okay, this thing where I said it should be doesn't really work. So before any development goes in, we can actually see what it looks like. And if there are any issues, we can spot it early and make sure that we change it before any development starts. And again, you're saving time and you're saving money, which is also very important. And then you get your stakeholder approval. Remember, the requirements belong to the requirements owner. Whoever is giving you that requirement, that's the requirement owner. So they're the ones that have to approve the requirements. And that's your user story. So they have to approve everything to make sure that there's proper alignment. Okay. I will go fast. Um, Again, I think I've said most of all these things, to be honest with you. It outlines what the structure is, what the functionality is. It makes sure that there's clear communication between the stakeholders. It validates the requirements, right, and identifies any issues, and it makes sure that everybody is working from the same page. If there's further development that needs to go, we already know where we are, right? This is where we stopped. So this is the wireframe of the last set of development that was done. If we now need to build on it, this is where we start from. We don't have to start from scratch anymore. Okay. And so the component, that's the purpose. The components are the layout, navigation, content, functionality. So layout is how everything is arranged on the page. When I say left, this is what I mean by left. Left up, left down, left middle, all of that. Footer, header, this is how everything looks. Navigation, how will the users move through it? If I click here, then this opens. Show me what it looks like when that page opens. Content, you have placeholder text and placeholder images. All these things are just placeholders, right? You're not actually getting the real image of what it looks like, but you're just having placeholders, right? And then functionality, so the buttons, the forms, all the elements of your software application. Okay. So each element in your wireframe should be identified, should link you with identified user needs and requirements. I already spent time talking about all of this, right? Your wireframe has to match your user story and your acceptance criteria. Okay. Don't add anything extra, right? There's some people that really like, they're artistic, they're creative. This is not your outlet for that. Don't add anything extra. If your PO hasn't given you that requirement, don't add it. It doesn't matter if it's a little line extra, or you think that if I add this little design here, it will make it look cuter. That's not the point of this. Everything here has to have a purpose. And if you haven't been given that requirement, please don't add any new elements. Okay? And then stakeholders obviously will use it and understand how it's to be implemented. Okay. Now, for a good wireframe, again, you need
Sorry, I
to
have a
understand what.
question.
Sorry.
I have a question.
Yeah, sure. Go
Yeah.
ahead.
Okay. So, is it right for me to assume that every like we are now all BAs in a particular team, we all have access to one particular um, user story and the wireframe. And if that is the case, you just mentioned that things should not be added that are not needed. So if, for instance, I'm one of the BAs and I've written the user story, the acceptance criteria, and then I have now come up with the wireframe, then somebody else goes in to do an adjustment that I haven't done. How do we trace it back to this is what the person has done? I know that in a real life situation, you've mentioned in previous um, presentation that you will probably be only one BA in the project team. So that means all of this falls at your table for you to go through so you can actually monitor for audit purposes. So how does that actually work out?
Okay, thank you very much for that question. That would actually, I'll answer that question when we get to balsamic, because I'll talk through some ways of working, right? Just so that, because again, like you very rightly mentioned, there are many BAs on one project, so there's obviously going to be overlap. How exactly are we going to work? Even if you're the only BA as well, there are some things you need to do. So um I will most likely answer that question when we actually get to the application, if you don't mind. Um,
That's fine.
just
Thank you.
putting a pin in it for now. Okay. All right. Awesome. So, like I said, to create a good wireframe, you need to understand what the requirements are. You need to understand what the scope and objectives of that wireframe is, right? So don't get too ahead of yourself, right? Make sure that you create the wireframe that is suitable for your user story. Okay, we'll talk about that a bit more. Like I said, it's low fidelity. The purpose of it is for review and reiteration. There are some stakeholders that prefer high fidelity wireframes, that they want to see exactly what it looks like. Just show me a replica. If it's blue, put blue there. If it's green, put green there. If there's a whole page of text there, put that whole page of. I want to see what it really looks like. There are other tools for that, and most likely that won't be the BA, because that's full on work. Although some BAs, like for example Figma, never say never. There's no knowledge that is wasted. So if you go ahead and learn how to use a tool like Figma that is high fidelity, more power to you. It adds more to your value anyway. But ideally, we usually just do sketches, and that's what we're going to do for this project that you're working on. I've already called two of these tools here. Balsamic will go into that later. There's also Figma. There are many. These are just a few. I'd even put Miro here. Miro is also a wireframing tool. There's Lucid Charts. There are loads of tools. These are just a few, right? Just a few of them. Before AI came, I think what's this organization? It wasn't Oracle. IBM. They had something that was very, very close to what AI does now, which I'll show you. But it was so good. It will literally create a wireframe for you. But for a lot of us beginners, I'd rather we don't use that kind of tool. Let's get our hands dirty with Balsamic. When we master the basics, then we can use AI to upgrade or add, make it better. But it's important that you understand how to create the wireframes first. Best practices, again, you focus on the user need. If your wireframe is not from the user's perspective, then there's a problem with it. make sure you keep it simple. Don't add too many details, right? Don't add, there's no need for it. Just, again, it's like a sketch, right? Think of a sketch and think of watercolor. You're bringing paints, different paints. That's not what this is. This is literally a pencil and you're sketching it. Um, Again, the reason for a wireframe is for iteration, right? It's used to refine your user stories. So you take it, you get it refined, you improve on it, and make sure that it works. It suits the stakeholders' needs and stakeholders' requirements, and it clearly shows the user's needs, and it gets approved. Okay. Then you're going to have to maintain consistency, right? If a particular wireframe has been approved and you want to build on it, you don't start again from scratch and start moving things around again. You continue from where you stopped. So again, I'm going to talk about that when we actually open the tool. Please be consistent, and that's even more important when there are multiple BAs on a project. So again, we're going to talk about that when we actually get to um the actual tool. So, prototype and test as well. Um, Even though here in BlueSky and for the purpose of our project, we just want you to create rudimentary sketches, Balsamic has been improving itself. I mean, almost every time I have to take this class, which is almost like every 3, 4, 5 months, and I open Balsamic again, they've upgraded, they've done something different, so right now they've actually added a lot of prototyping capabilities as well. So I just want to mention that. So when you're even going online, because again, this is a 2 hour class, but we're still just going to do the basics. You would probably still want to go ahead and learn a bit more on your own. When you're going online, look for 2026 videos. So this is the seventh month of the year. So look for videos that are 7 months old, 6 months old, that kind of thing, because they literally just released new features this year. So if you're seeing the older one, maybe 3 years old, 5 years old, those anything they're showing you will be outdated right now. Balsamic doesn't look like that anymore. They've changed the interface, they've changed a lot of things. So if you want to do additional study, make sure you look for recent videos. I said that because right now they've actually added a lot of prototyping capabilities that they didn't have before, AI capabilities and all of that. But anyway, we're not going but it's not that deep, right? We just want very, very basic wireframes. Okay. So for the process, right? Um I think we've done this already. Sorry, I kind of wanted to focus on the image here. So, oops, sorry, let me go back. So, effective and versus ineffective wireframes. Your effective wireframes is very much like your user story and your acceptance criteria. It has to be clear, right? It has to be very, very clear, simple, easy to understand, no unnecessary detail or additional things that aren't required. Make sure it's focused on the user story. Remember, your user story is based on a particular requirement. So make sure that the accompanying wireframes, it's not just one. Sometimes you can have multiple wireframes for each user story. Make sure that they're all focused on what the user story and the acceptance criteria cover. It's usually hierarchical. That means you can build on it. So you start by, you know, from scratch. The same way you build a website, you start from scratch and build on it. So your wireframes will also keep getting more detailed as more features are being developed on the application or on the website, right? Then again, I've talked about consistency, annotation. So a lot of times, you meet with your PO here, and your PO is able to tell you, what they want refined or what they want changed. Sometimes the project team actually has access to the project space. And once you're done with your requirement, all you have to do is just let the PO know. They will go on there, and then if they will review it there, and then they can make annotations, they can make notes to say, oh, change this, add this, rather than coming for a meeting. Sometimes people don't have time for a meeting. You do the wireframe, send it to them, they'll annotate on it, send it back to you, you make the correction, send it back to them. So that way work is going on without without waiting for meetings. So your ineffective wireframes is too much detail. Anything that is in your wireframe that is not in your user story is too much. It's excess. Don't do it. Okay. If it's inconsistent, then there's a problem. If it's lacking context, there's a problem. If you're fixed on one particular thing and you're not even open to changes or feedback or iteration, then there's a problem. If it's not user facing, there's a problem. Okay. So it's about structure, it's about flow, it's about your layout, it's about what it looks like and how the user goes through from element to element to element. So make sure you keep it simple. Okay. Now going straight into balsamic, right? Very simple. It looks like it's hand drawn. You literally, that's all you want from it. It's very very easy to use. You won't break it, right? So you can play around with it. You are going to have to do that anyway to see how everything works. It has a whole huge library of elements and controls and icons. I'll explain what all these things mean. So there are so many you'll never ever get to use. But for the things that you do need, you may have to do a bit of a search, do some trial and error before you find what works, all of that. It's practice. Practice makes perfect. So it's very easy to use. It's very intuitive. It uses a lot of the known keyboard, controls that we have already or we're very familiar with. So it's not hard at all. And obviously, because it's so easy to use, it's just very quick wireframing. Okay, we're not interested in too many visual details. And again, the emphasis is on the user experience. Okay. So, some key features for balsamic, like I said, you have a wide range of elements, buttons, menus, a lot, right? It's huge. We'll go into all of that. So it's really very easy. Most of what you need is already contained in the application itself. You don't need to go and bring in things to make your wireframe. It's all there. Again, I've talked about adding notes, comments, annotations, making it easy to communicate, and then it's very collaborative, okay, which is something you guys are going to really enjoy because there are multiple BAs on one project, right? So it's really easy. You can get on it, learn it, get it done very very quickly, right? The learning curve is not very steep at all. And as a BA, to add this additional skill onto your list of skills is brilliant, right? So some key terms like I talked about, these are some of the things. The more you use it, you kind of get to use some of these words. You work from a canvas, you use controls, you have containers, you can transform the different, we'll go into all of that. There are symbols, grouping, board, panels, all of that. Undo, redo, layers, you can export, and obviously your cloud collaboration. So we'll go through all of this again. I think we're almost getting to the walkthrough bit. So setting up a new project, you don't really need to do this. We've done this for you. We've set up your project and we've invited you to join the project space, right? So you don't need to do this. Adding components, I'll talk about how you do that. It's basic drag and drop. We all know how to drag and drop things. That's the way the tool works, right? So again, it's really good for aligning and arranging things. As a BA, I know a lot of other project roles are not really keen on um, detail. And when I say detail, I don't mean heavy detail. I just mean because we document and we communicate a lot, it's so important that we do it properly, right? So when we're creating wireframes, the same way when we're writing user stories, we pay attention to the little things. We're not we proofread our work, we make sure that there are no errors, we make sure we go back and we make sure the little things of capitalization, making sure the spelling is right, making sure everything is formatted. It's what we do. We want to present our work in the best possible light, and also applies to wireframes. You make sure that your lines are aligned because you're doing it by hand. Sometimes you may need to be a bit finicky. We'll talk about it again, but there are tools there that will help you make sure that everything is properly aligned. So make sure that your text is not wonky. One is left aligned, the other one is right aligned, the other one is middle aligned. It's like it doesn't make any sense. It doesn't look good. You have two fields, one is leaning to the left, the other one is leaning to the right. It doesn't look good. So if other roles can get away with not paying attention to detail, BAs can't. Why? Because a lot of what we do has to do with documentation. A lot of people are going to see and work with our documentation. We want to make sure that we get it right all the time. Because when you make a mistake and you show it to your project team, it's going to be obvious to everybody. And that's even just your project team. Sometimes it goes to leadership. It goes to some heads of your department. It goes to your C-suite people. And it's like, where did this thing come from? Oh, the BA did it. It's like, but then you see work that is really, really well done. You're like, hey, sometimes they will even give you credit when it's well done. If it's not well done, then they will give you all the credit. But if it's well done, they won't. But that's not what we're doing right now anyway. Just make sure that your positioning, your alignment, everything is clean. It looks good. Okay? This tool really helps you do that. And again, there are styles and formatting and all of that. I'm not saying that this tool, because again, all these tools, they want to compete. Initially, Balsamic was the one that you went with for lo-fi sketching, and then if you wanted something that was very detailed, you go to Figma, Mira, and all the others. But now Balsamic is like, why are we letting people go to other tools? Let's bring all of this here. So they're adding a lot of more functionality on their system. It's still hand drawn, which sets it apart, but they're adding a lot more a lot more functionality. So it's there. It's just that we don't really use it. So don't bother with it. There's interactivity. They actually make you able to click through the wireframes on their site, and it looks really good. But again, that's beyond what we need for this. And again, they have a whole library of articles. So if you go to balsamic.com, there are loads and loads of resources. They have like a Balsamic Academy where you can learn stuff. And because they are making so many changes, because a lot of times when all these tools are created, independent creators have YouTube videos on how to use it. I think Balsamic is going too fast. So a lot of the videos are older videos, but Balsamic is releasing and changing their format. So now if I want the latest information, I go straight to Balsamic themselves, because they're the ones that they've released everything. They have an academy where they talk you through what their interface looks like now, how to use everything now. So for me, they're one of the most, if not the most reliable sources to learn. Oh, your interface has changed. Where is everything? There used to be a tool there. You've moved it. Where is it now? And if I have time, I'll click through. If I don't have time, I'll go to their site and look through, and they'll tell me what they've done, and I'm able to do that. All right. Before we go to the second part of our class, which is the actual going to Balsamic itself, does anyone have any other questions? I know I still have one question pending, but does anyone have any questions? Anybody? If you do, just unmute and ask.
Thank you. So it's just mine is not a question, just a comment. Thank you very for running us through. It's so clear and vivid. Thank you very much.
You're very welcome. Awesome. Don't worry, I'm glad you said that now, because now we're actually going to the actual tool itself. So keep that in mind. Okay, keep that same energy. I like it. Thank you very much. Okay. If there are no other questions, we'll go quickly. Oh, before we do, your take-home task. Every class has to have a take-home class, but I'll make this really easy for you. Your take-home task and your project task will be the same thing, right? all those stories you have
Sorry,
created.
Uzo.
Yes.
Maybe obviously because you are sharing your screen, you can't see. There are three people whose hands are up. I don't even know whether they are legacy or they actually have questions.
I've
There's
already told them
Nikki,
that I
Wafra,
can't
and
see their
Karen.
hand though.
Yes.
If their hand is up, then it's on
So
them.
they should
I'm
just go
not
ahead and
sure.
ask the questions.
Yeah. Whose hand is up? Do you want to wait until I can see your hand, or what's the plan? Because
Can
again,
you
I'm
hear
showing
me?
my phone and I can't see your hand. As long as the questions have to do, yeah, as long as the questions have to do with the class, I don't mind if you
Yes.
record.
Thank you for your lecture. But from what we learned so far, you're saying that Zib Sami can pronounce it well. They keep updating their functionalities, right?
Mm-hmm.
I don't think it's a disadvantage since they keep so you have to keep learning and learning and looking for where to click. Am I right? Is it not a disadvantage?
So I have known how to use balsamic all the time. It doesn't make any difference to you. You all you're going to see now is all you're going to see. You don't know what it looks like before. For me, it's just a talking point to say when you're looking for additional materials, don't look for the older one, look for the new one, and I'm explaining why. I know how to use balsamic. I don't mind. It's just like me learning how to use Lucidchart or learning how to. Everybody is upgrading. Nobody is IT. IT is so fast paced. If you come to a website yesterday, you log on, you something has changed, and it's on every site. So they're trying to keep up with the innovations. AI, like I said, why are we letting our people go to Figma when we can keep them here? If someone likes using balsamic, they might as well use balsamic for low-fi and hi-fi people. So that I personally don't mind. It makes it again. I've gotten to the mindset of continuous learning. If I'm not learning something, I almost feel like the tech industry is passing me by because I know things are changing really, really quickly. So it's just a sign of time. That's IT for you. If you have something that is a year old and you've not seen any change, that application is not it. Most of them change, but again, from your perspective, all you see today is all you're going to see. From my perspective, I don't mind. I already know how to use the tool, so all I'm doing is what you are going to do because I'm like, oh, okay, I need to do this particular thing. I was able to do it before. They've moved the things around. Where has it moved to? So I'm just keeping I don't mind. I personally, I don't know of any one who minds per se, because that's just your life in tech. You just you learn how to use the basic tools, and then all the other similar tools you keep learning how to use them, but as long as you know how it works, you'll be good. So yeah, I personally don't mind. It will make absolutely no difference to you, right? So thank you for that. Any other question?
Yes, please. I have a question. Thank you very much for the lecture. So I just wanted to ask, do you need to learn balsamic as a wireframing tool if you can easily make a prototype of your website?
Okay, so if you can make a prototype of a website, like I said, there's no knowledge that is wasted, right? If you know how to use it, it's more to your benefit. However, each organization and each project team works differently. If you come onto a project team like ours, it doesn't matter if you know how to make the prototype. All we're asking for is a wireframe. If you say, oh, a prototype is better than a wireframe, let me give you a prototype, the PO will still tell you, I didn't ask for a prototype, I asked for a wireframe. Could you give me my wireframe, please? If you go onto a particular project and they're saying, oh, we need wireframes, they're like, oh, do you mind? I know how to do a prototype. I can give you a prototype if you want. And they're like, oh, great, wonderful. Oh, you can give us give us a prototype. Then that's great. You do your prototype and that's it. But remember, this is an addition to your work. I was working on a particular project, right? It's a new project in my organization. And they said, oh, we want to see exactly how it will look, from blah, 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 and all of that. I knew what they were asking for. They wanted something like Figma, like for like. And I was like, I didn't even go, oh, I can. I was like, we need a UI UX designer. if I spend all my time doing that, I will not do my core BA role. And I was hired as a I was hired to be a BA on this project. The fact that I can use Figma and give you what you want is irrelevant. I don't have the time for it. If I spend time doing it, I won't do my other role. So we need somebody whose job it is to do that thing you've asked for. So we need an additional resource. So they were like, so can't you do it? I was like, if you guys want a wireframe, I'll give you a wireframe. But if you want Figma, every page, I should replicate it. And meanwhile, this is a huge organization. So this is a web app. A mobile app. So we're talking about pages and pages and pages of my organization. I was like, nah, man, that's not my job. Whether I can do it or not is by the wayside. I can't. I don't have the time. I don't have the capacity. So again, your knowledge is very, very good. I also know another BA who knows how to do data analytics and SQL. They looked for somebody to do it. They didn't have the resource. Because she needed it, she just started doing it. So she after work has closed, she would be spending time doing data analytics because she needs it for the work. I'm like, man, more power to you. And they love her as a result of it. But yeah, no, I can't. I really can't. It's above and beyond. If I have the capacity, I'll do it. If I don't. So all I'm saying is your additional knowledge is brilliant. Put it on your CV. Let them know what you can do. However, if you're in a project team that tells you, only give us this thing, we don't need the prototype, we need the wireframe, then just give them the wireframe. If you suggest a prototype and they are keen on it, most people will say, bring it on. Yes, please. But then remember, that's additional work for you. So does it pay you to spend God knows how much? If they're paying you per hour, more power to you. If not, then would your real job suffer? Because you can give them the prototype, but you haven't done your user stories. Nobody is going to ask you for the prototype if you haven't done your main job. So just keep everything in perspective. Is that okay?
Okay, so I don't know how to do a prototype. I'm just asking. So
No. It
now,
applies to everything. It doesn't.
I'm just asking
It's a theoretical question. So I gave
because
you.
I do realize that, from my working with user stories and acceptance criteria, if people can actually, visualize it, it's easier to write the stories. It's easier to even write the acceptance criteria and other structures that you want the developers to follow. So my question is, if you have a PO, for example, and the PO is like, okay, well, I don't really know what you want to do. You know how it will look best. Just give me something nice. You're not really getting a requirement in as much as you're trying to elicit, you're trying to get all the information, but this person keeps saying, just give me something nice. Just give me something nice. They're not giving you even the minimum viable product. They're not giving you. Just give me something nice. And then they do not even understand wireframing. They do not understand wireframing. They want to see what their website will look like at the end of the day. You have people like that who they just want to see what their work will look like. If you're giving them a wireframe, be like, so what have you done? And so how do you begin to manage this in our world today?
Okay, so there are different kinds of projects and project teams and product owners, and just people are different. It's not a one size fits all, simply because human beings are different. Project teams are organizations are different. Everything is different. You can even be in the same organization and every project you work on will be different. You can even work with the same team and the project will still be different. So it's very rare that you have the same consistent thing all through. So as BAs, we're very versatile. We deal with people well. We know how to manage people. If your product owner is not giving you detail, it's usually for a few reasons. One, they're not sure about what the requirements are. They know they want a website, but they haven't really agreed on what it looks like. So things are still up in the air. They're still talking. At that point, it's still discovery. We're still discovering. We just want to try a lot of different options. Let's look and see, okay, we know we want a website, but how will the website look? What features do we want on the website? That's still discovery. At that point, you haven't gotten to user stories yet because we haven't agreed on what the requirements are. So that's where your elicitation skills now come in. You start asking questions, right? Probing questions. What information do you want to know? I always give BAs a caveat after BlueSky, because sometimes the POs know exactly what they want here. So you almost think that that's how it's going to be every time. I almost feel like you're being spoiled because the POs know. That's what I'm saying. Even though they're giving you those things, ask questions. Because if you get used to someone just giving you everything, the day you go for a requirement and the person is just looking at you, you're looking at them, you'll be shocked. You're just looking at each other. But I thought you were the PO. Yes. Eh? Do something. Do what? Give me the requirements. And they're just looking at you. They're expecting you to elicit it, to pull it out. It's almost like you're going to fish and someone is just putting fish in your bucket and you carry the fish and you go. The day there's nobody to put in the bucket, you have to actually throw your fishing line into the sea and use your technique to find the fish. That day you know that elicitation is difficult. So it depends. Sometimes the person is just very scatterbrained and you have to nail them on the detail. And if you find out that this person really doesn't know what the details are, you can ask them, so who would know? Where do I get this information from? Because I can't do anything without the information. I'm not going to pluck it from the air. So either I've done my best to ask you questions, but even the questions I'm asking, you're telling me, oh, we're not sure. If we're not sure, and like you said, you want us to explore, then that's discovery. We're not even going to requirements elicitation right now. We're still trying to make up our minds as to what that project will look like. So people are having discovery meetings and they're talking and they're throwing ideas around. Oh, do we want it to be blue, black, green? Do we want it to have all these bells and whistles? Oh, I like this one. I don't like this one. You're just taking notes. When you're done, you're like, okay, what's the decision? We cannot have blue and green at the same time. So we all said blue and green are nice, but where do we land? Are we landing on blue? Are we landing on green? When they give a decision, you document it, and that's your requirement. So there are many different stages of a project. They can bring you in at any stage. If the project is already live and they need you to just document user stories, that's what you're going to do. If they need you to do a bit of discovery, that's what you're going to do. So you as a BA, you have a toolkit of loads of different techniques. Wherever they put you in the project, you hit the ground running and okay, this is why I'm going to take off from it. So it's not going to be all the same thing, right? So know who your stakeholders are. If your PO is sometimes the PO is non-communicative, you have to find a way to get information out of them. Maybe they're the kind that prefer writing, they don't want to come and talk. Fine, write it down and send to me. Or maybe they don't like writing, they want talking. Every day we're having meetings and we're doing a station, then fair enough, that's what we're going to do. So you work with the stakeholder according to how the stakeholder is, and you get the information you need. So I hope that helped. Basically, I hope that helped.
Yes, it helps a lot. But my thing now is, Bill, wireframing, as one of the stages you have to go through process, in this development, is it specifically for the developers? Because wireframing, I see it to me as abstract for most people. Like you've explained a lot of things now. So is it specifically for the developers or the technical people who can understand? It's not really for the PO, the wireframing.
No, the wireframing now. The wireframe is the PO. The requirements are the PO's requirements. You have your user story, you have your acceptance criteria, and you have your wireframe. Before it ever gets to the development team, the PO has to approve it. It's all part of the same artifact, the same documentation of the requirements. So it's the PO's requirements. The wireframe is part of the PO's requirements. The only thing is that once you've gotten the approval of the PO for the user story and the acceptance criteria, you now take it to the development team. You just added one more element to it. That's all. So the wireframe is not different from your user story. It's all part of the same thing. It forms part of the same user story. Your user story is no longer complete without a wireframe. If you want to approve a wireframe, I beg your pardon, if you want to approve a user story and it doesn't have a wireframe, I can bet you that your developer and your QA will tell you, no, could you please add the wireframe? So going forward, like I said, the only reason your user stories have been approved so far is because they know you don't know how to use it. And that's the concession. Sorry, you don't know how to create it. That's the concession they've made for you. Going forward for Sprint 2, I can guarantee you that your POs will request that all your your user stories now have wireframes. So it's not like it's for a particular person. It's part of the same artifact. Okay? All right.
Yes, my thing is just about architecture. Nowadays, people don't really like, they come up with 3D diagrams and all sorts of things
Well, I
that are more
explained
visually
though.
appealing.
I explained. We've said this. We're still going back to the same thing. Do what they've asked you to do. If they don't want that, then fine. If they don't want wireframes, don't give them wireframes. You're working in a project for BlueSky. For BlueSky, you need to give us wireframes.
No, no.
Once you give
What I'm
BlueSky,
asking is this: will there be a time? That's what I'm asking.
would there be a time that what?
Where it will evolve from this? Do you think that it will evolve beyond this? Because you've been telling us about, we're going to make different versions at different times. We have to keep learning. So I'm just asking along that line as well.
It's up to you. I'm just explaining what you need for BlueSky. If this is the only knowledge you ever have of wireframes, then that's all you need. It's fine. If you want to learn more, I've given you where there's no hard and fast rule. There's nothing that is a must, except what we need you to do here. After the 3 months, you can do whatever you'd like to do. Is fine. Yeah. You may never see wireframe again in your life. You may see wireframes in your life.
Thank
So
you very much.
you're very welcome. Thank you. All right, so take-home task: add wireframes to all your existing stories, user stories that you created for Sprint 1 and going forward. Refine and approve them with your PO. After approval, work through the wireframes with your project team and ensure they understand what it is, and ensure that going forward, all your wireframes, all your user stories now have wireframes for refinement and approval. That's your take-home task. So it's literally nothing additional that you need to do. Okay. All right, so now let me stop sharing so we can go to the cocoa of the matter, which is balsamic in action. So we want to create a sample wireframe now. All this talk that we've done, we want to practicalize it. Okay. Alrighty. Let me make sure I have the correct thing and share my screen again. Oh no, sorry, I am okay. That wasn't intentional. But yeah, so remember the site I told you about, Balsamic Learn First Wife. There are loads of different features here. This is the Balsamic Academy. So feel free to enjoy learning Balsamic there. All right, so these are your project spaces: Digital Titan, Synergy, Nexus, and Excel. You all have your project teams. I can't remember who was asking about project teams. So you will know once you have access, you'll know what your project team is, right? So let me click on and you can tell how many people are in your team. So I already know that they're like these are all the people that are part of your team. So you know those that have access basically. Let's click on Synergy. So this is what it looks like. Yeah. You can already see people are there. And once other team members are there, you can tell those that are there. So Samaya is here, Raphael is here, Karen, Hope, they're all here and they're obviously working, right? So this is what it looks like. Let me X out of this first. Okay. So this, remember we're talking about canvases. This is your blank canvas. You have your list of different tools on the left side. You have your tools here at the bottom as well, and then you have all the different tools on top. So the first one is your project. So it tells you your team members, those that are in your team. So these are all the people in the team. I think someone has been invited, but they've not accepted the invitation. So these are all the members of your team. Then this is your board, right? You work. This is your canvas, but you work with a board. I'll show you all of that. So if you click on the drop down, you see your different boards. This is your edit button. These are all the drop downs, and then this is your view. So what do you want to see? There are different panels, which have actually mirrored the panels here as well on the left side. So for panels, you have your UI elements, which is here. You have your icons, which is also here. Images. It's very similar to what you have here. Okay, and then you have your zoom. You can zoom in, zoom out, all of that. You can even play music if you want. More power to you. So to really start working, we want our boards, right? So your board is what you're creating, right? If you create a new board, you can see it here. You can either list it lined here, or you see exactly what is on here, and then whatever you create on your canvas will be reflected on your board. Whenever you're working on a particular board, you see that it's highlighted, right? So you can create multiple boards, and then you can delete them as well. If you right click on it, you'll be able to move to trash and all of that. Now, going back to the question one of you asked regarding how to work together, because even though there's usually only one BA on a team, if a project space has other project team members, so sometimes you have your PO on here, you have your developer may get access, other team members may get access. So it's good to have proper etiquette when you're working on stuff. So when you create, rather than just create boards, you just be board 1, board 2, board 3, board 4. It's such a horrible way to work, right? Whenever you create a board, you automatically rename it. What wireframe am I creating? Am I creating a landing page header? Again, please be descriptive. I joined one of the, I think it was Nexus team yesterday, and I was telling them, be as descriptive as you need to. Because if I just put landing page here, remember your header is on the landing page, your footer is on the landing page, your banner is on the landing page, other parts of your website are on the landing page. If I just put landing page, it's not enough description. What part of the landing page are you talking about? Is it the entire page, full page? Or are you talking about elements? Maybe you just want to highlight this is for the header, or maybe this is for the footer. What do you want to do? Or maybe it's even for the footer that has to do with the privacy policy button. So be this, what are you trying to create, right? Create it and make sure, because sometimes this is a new project space, right? But sometimes you have hundreds of wireframes. I can't just be scrolling, and I'm not having to click on each one to see what it's there. It's not a good way to work. I want to be able to read what the heading is and say, oh, okay, I want to go to the landing page, or maybe it's even the footer. Maybe not. I already know that my landing page has a footer, so I'll just make it the footer, remove landing page, and just put footer privacy policy, or header home button, or header logo, whatever it is I'm trying to create. I'm more descriptive. So your first I'll call it ways of working or etiquette when using a common space is to make sure that you name everything you create, right? Rename it, open it, rename it, make sure that you have all of that there. And like I said, you're not going to break anything. Play around with stuff, right? Move things around. If you create a footer here and you want to move it to the top, you can literally do that. Why is it not moving? Okay, here you go. So you can move it and place it somewhere else, right? Place it at the top, place it at the bottom. You can play around with different things. You can even use this up and down button to move it as well. So if you want to move it up, it depends on you, but please don't create boards without naming them. Okay, so let me rename this one as training board. Let's just do that. All right, training board number 1. Okay, so I'll just introduce you to what some of this looks like, right? Let me just move this up here. So now I want the training board to be at the top. Okay, so this is the board I'm working on, right? And then, like I said, you have all these different elements, right? Like I said, I showed you what they look like. Some of it is replicated here, but most of it is here. So this is your AI feature. Leave that alone for now. I'm not even going to talk about it now. That's not what you can play around it and see what it does, but I can guarantee that you're not going to use it for this project. You can use it to play around with and then learn, but yeah, other than that, I don't think you use it for the project. So here you have your containers. If you click on it, you see different kinds of containers. They're trying to make things really, really easy for you to find. So these are obviously a lot of the commonly used containers that people have. Remember, Balsamiq is a wireframing tool for a web application, which is usually like a website or a web page or something. So they've already given you what a browser looks like. And to move this over to your canvas, you can move it in 2 ways. You can drag and drop. If I click on it and drag it, I leave it, it comes here. So you can see the board I'm working on. It already shows what's there. Alternatively, if you want to delete it, you can click on Ctrl+Z for undo, or you can delete it. Alternatively, you can double click. If you double click, it'll come. So those are the 2 ways you can. Once you see an element, these are called elements of the whatever. If you see one you want to use, this is how to move it from onto the canvas, basically. Okay, so this is a web page. Like you say, it's very rudimentary, but there are so many different functionalities. There are some that are very static. There are some that are editable, right? Usually, if it has text, usually it's editable. So if you want to see if something's editable, you can double click on it, and then it will bring out your editing pane. And so I can edit this now. I can say Amazonian. Let me not steal from Amazon. Amazonian treasures or something. And then I can put my website, www.amazonian treasures. Don't know why I picked the long name.com. And then if I click out of it, that has already given you it has put it there, basically. So it's changed the top and changed this one. So this is editable. There's another one. Oh no, this is the one I got the last time. Where's the other one? No. Okay. And then so these are containers. I've not seen the one I want here, but if you click through, you see all the different ones. This is for an iPhone, an iPad, the smartphone. So these are containers, right? A container is like a browser. So you create the outer page, and then you obviously have to add elements. A browser page is never like this. There are other things in here. So this is the container. Same thing like a wireframe for a phone. It's just a container. You now have to add all the different elements in it. Okay. The second one are those different elements, right? So you have your buttons, your combo button. We can talk through some of them. So this only has these ones, but if you come here, you can search because there are loads of it. And then if you click here, Ctrl+L, but click on here, you can see it'll just show you all the different elements, and then it'll arrange them. So these are some project components, maybe the ones that people use regularly, because all these projects are within BlueSky. So it's kind of telling us in BlueSky, these are some of the frequently used ones or pages or whatever we use here. So it just kind of shows you all we use. So project components, but then these are their own library. So you have your different essentials. So this is not the browser I want. So again, as you can see now, I'm looking for a particular browser, but I can't see it. What it's giving me is not really what I want. So I can search the UI articles and then look for browsers. So it will kind of show me all the different browsers it has. None of this is the browser I want to. None of this is the browser I want. Okay. Yeah, so you can search. Let me see if it'll give me something better for a web page. It depends. You can search many different things, right? Website, nothing, web page.
My homepage.
Not really. It's none of these ones. But again, it's showing you what an Apple Watch looks like. So yeah, loads and loads of different features. You can play around with it. So again, while you're familiarizing yourself with it, because I know what I want, I'm just looking for it, but it doesn't seem to be here. So I'll keep looking. I'm sure I'll find it somewhere. It keeps bringing this one for me. I really don't want this one.
Is there not a drop down next to the browser when you click on?
Yeah, but it's not the page I want. But you can use this one, but
I mean that when you are on the browser and you're hovering, there's an arrow coming up. I don't know if that this show more
this
example.
Arrow.
No. When you're on your left hand side on your layout, when you're choosing your layout, they say there's an arrow there. No, you go back to the browser, please.
I should go back to the browser. Okay.
Yeah. So that arrow, what does it do? Sorry, because I've not.
It's just a pointer. Your pointer.
No, the arrow next to the browser.
So the drop down.
Yeah, the drop down. Sorry.
Yeah, so it's showing you.
Okay, no.
Yeah, so it tells you
I thought it was going to show you more option, but that's fine. No worries.
Yeah, so again, this is nice functionality they've added. With the drop down, you can kind of preview it before you paste because it's really small. So that's what I've been doing. I've been clicking on it to see what it is, but then it's not what I want, so I'm deleting. But obviously, if you click on it, you can see what it looks like. And then if you click on browser guidelines, I just clicked on it and it took me to their page to kind of show me what all that is. So this is stuff you can learn if you want to understand what the browser guidelines are. What can it do? What can this element do? What can it not do? I think that's a nice one for you and all of that. So yeah, like I said, there are loads of different fields. There's text. These are just some text. You can put it here and then you name whatever it is you want. Maybe login button, login. We won't say login button. It's probably just login. So because it's editable, you can see what it looks like. Once you're seeing all these what do they call it now? These borders, you can expand on it and make it little, make it whatever, you can move it around. Once you see this, your arrow, this is actually the arrow I thought you were talking about. Once you see the arrow, then you can move it, you can expand it, you can reduce it. Then once you highlight a particular element, this bar will appear and then you can change the size. So you can see all the different sizes. If I want it to be bigger, I'll click on it to be bigger. If I want to change the color to something else, I can do that. Yeah, so and then something else they've done here, which is really nice. If you're working with this and you're like, oh, I want to work with something, this is not really what I want. I want to work with something different. This is the transform button. So you can transform one element to another. So these are all the different things that it will transform to. So if, for example, I'm doing this, but I want it to become a comment, I can just change it to a comment and then it will now become a comment. It's purple. Maybe I don't want it to be purple anymore. I want it to be white. But then, yeah, so it has changed. I want to change from a comment to something else, a proper login. So it depends. Once you come here, you can see all these different things and you can transform the element into something else. If at any point you're like, okay, I think I've gone a bit far, you can click on your Control Z, it will undo everything you've done, and there you go. So whatever is highlighted is what this floating what they call it now border is referring to. If I click on the login, it will change. It will become the field will be for the login. If I click on the browser, it will be for the browser. So I think we're talking about generating prototypes. If you've done a wireframe and you want to generate the prototype, this is where the AI feature comes in. But again, you won't need all of that. That's extra. You can play around with it, see what it does, watch videos about it, but trust me when I say your PO will not need that from you. So again, these are loads and loads of different text versions.
Sorry, excuse me also. Sorry.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for how far we have gone. I want to find out here from the task you get to us, and from what you are explaining on this browser here, it's getting me a bit confused. So if we say we should add our wireframes to all the user stories created for sprint 1, this one here is pictorial. So, but the wireframes are in written form. So how do we put them in this kind of browser?
So ask your question again. I think ask it again to make sure that I understand.
I'm drawing my question from the task we're giving to us. That we should add wireframes to all the user stories created for sprint 1. And what you have displayed here is pictorial, meaning showing like login and all the browser, this and that. So I'm now asking, now how do we now, because the user story is in written form, so how do we now put it here? How do we put it here? Should we just paste on this body here because we are creating wireframes? Oh, I'm getting confused there.
Do you have a user story you created? Yes. Can you talk me through one of the user stories you submitted yesterday that you're going to need to create wireframes for?
Okay, please just give me a second. Let me get it out.
That's fine. So while you're doing that, I'll just quickly continue. So you can expand on the categories like we've been doing, or you can just create lines for them. So it tells you all the different categories. If you want a text input, you click on it, it will show you all the different versions of the text inputs. If you want what else would we want? If we want different features, it's here. Email is here. Dialog buttons is all there, right? So you can use this to scroll really quickly and see all the different things that you're able to work with. But trust me when I say that there are some that you probably never look at. Once you kind of get the one you need, that's usually the ones you look at. I think they usually put it in essentials, especially if you use it quite a lot. So again, there are loads and loads of different ones, but not all of them are editable. There's some that are, there's some that are not. So this is an arrow one. It tells you if you want a straight line, if you want a curved line. Play around with it, guys. You're going to see loads and loads of different ones. For images, right? We use this for our images. So we use it for our logo. We use it for pictures because we're not putting the actual picture there. We're just basically putting a representative of what the picture is. So if it's like one of these cover pictures, this is basically our image placeholder. That's what we use for images. If it's a logo, we'll just make it smaller for the logo if it's a bigger one. But this is what we usually use for images, right?
I'm back.
Yeah. So rather than just keep going, because there are so many different buttons here, rather than just keep going, we can actually design something, and in designing it we can use some of the different elements and all of that, because there are loads and loads and loads, and each one has a different functionality. Remember, I told you that if you have like a page for about us or privacy policy, you're not getting the actual text. So most of the time we use like dummy text or squiggly lines to say there will be text here. But it's not like we're going to go and get the actual text and put here. We just want to signify that, okay, this is an about us page. Where's my title text inbox? So you kind of put this here and then you put your about us, right? About us. So under about us, you now have all these squiggly lines. But again, none of these things are done in isolation. They're all put in a container, which is your website. But all these are just loads and loads of different elements that you use, right? Maybe you don't even want the browser. You want to start creating it by from scratch. Just give me a rectangular box and I'll build everything from scratch. You can do that as well. And again, as you're moving things around, for example, as you see now, I've put this here, but behind it there are other things I was working on. So I can just right click, right, and then send this to the back, and then all the things that are behind it have now come forward, right? So I can now move them around on this container, in this container, right? And then I can add my website here, add my header, add my footer, add all the things I want to add all here. This is text. So again, like I said, this is what they put here is basically things that we use a lot, right? A lot of things that we use regularly. If you want to create a link, this is a link. Maybe the link is www. What am I?
mentorskit.com.
No. So what we don't do most of the time is we don't use any of our tutorials to do your work for you.
Oh, okay.
No instructor is going to. If you want to give us an example, don't give us an example of the project you're working on. Let's make something up, because when you understand the concept, then you can apply it to not only the project you're working on, but any project you're working on. So I don't know. No instructor will use an example from your live project.
Okay.
So we just want to understand what the concepts are, then you can now apply it to your project, right?
Okay.
So whatever examples we're given, I only asked you for a user story you worked on just to answer that question.
It's available. It's here.
Okay, so
I put it on the chat. So should I read it out?
Just tell me what it's about. There's no need to read it, because just tell me what the user story is about.
Okay, it's about a footer.
So you want to create a footer?
Yes. Say
okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so in order to create a footer, you start by creating what the website looks like, because the footer is not in isolation. Your footer is in your website.
Okay.
So it's on your web page, right? The footer is part of what particular page? So let's look at Balsamiq itself, right? So this is Balsamiq's footer. This is Balsamiq's footer, right? So they have this in their footer: email, Balsamiq product, blah, 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 blah. So if you were creating a footer for this Balsamiq page,
yes,
chances are you're going to have to create at least the whole page, because the footer is not in isolation. So what I would do if I was creating a footer is I would create a web page. I may not focus on the header,
okay,
but I'll focus on the footer. But because I'm the only BA anyway, I know that this page has a header. I will still work on the header, honestly, to be fair from you. Just that the way you guys are working, you may have to break some of the things down. But if I'm the BA and I'm creating a wireframe for this, I'll create this page, I'll create the header, I'll create the information I have at the moment, because you may not have all the information, you have some information. So whatever information they've given you about whatever it is you want to create, that's what you're going to create, right? So you may not be the one assigned to do the header, but you know what the header is supposed to look like. So again, going back to the question regarding how you work together, right? I would suggest that you all work on what the actual page looks. You all agree, because there's no point in because Uzo is the one doing the header and Adeni is the one doing the footer and Abigail is the one doing the banner, then we're working on 3 separate wireframes. Meanwhile, this is one website. There's no way those 3 separate wireframes will look like the same thing. So I would suggest that we all collaborate on what the landing page at least looks like. Then if Abigail is taking that landing page and she's now creating the header for that landing page. Then she can add the different elements for the header. If Uzo is now adding the elements for the footer, I'll take that thing we've all agreed that it looks like, the container, what the container looks like. Then I'll work on the footer. Then the third person, Nii, will take that same container and then add the banner to it. And the way you can do this, again, let's go to your boards, right? No, sorry, let's go to our boards. Are these the boards? Yes. Okay. So let's say, for example, you have we've agreed that this is what this looks like, right? Rather than having to reinvent the wheel, I will just duplicate this particular thing, right? So I'll leave whoever is working on this. Let's say again, it's Abimbola that is working on something. Rather than click on her work and start amending work that I did not do, work that I didn't, whatever, because I still have to build on her work, I can duplicate it and then start working on it. So again, even if I want to rename it and say, okay, I want to rename this as, we're both working on the footer, but this is Uzo's footer. Then I rename it and I put my name. So nobody can say, oh, I didn't know it was your footer. So if Abigail now wants to say, okay, I want to build from your footer, because we can't have two different footers for the same website. Abigail will come and she will duplicate this, and then she will change it to Abigail. So now this is Abigail that is now working on another aspect of the landing page. We're all working on different elements of the landing page, but there has to be some uniformity to it. So what I would suggest as well is, at least for some of the initial pages, that you guys collaborate, work together. I'm not saying only one person should do it. I'm saying you guys agree on what it looks like. So if we agree on this is what the container looks like, because you cannot say that I want to use this browser. Then someone else will say, okay, no, but me, I want to use this other browser for the same website. How far? It's not possible. So you guys have to agree on what it looks like. What do we want it to be? Then once you agree on what it looks like, if someone wants to add the logo, they can now duplicate this thing, add the logo, and then keep working on it. So there's no way to, there used to be a way to lock stuff up, but yeah, okay, so there is actually. So again, let's say I'm done with this, right? I want to finish, I finished working on this, and I want to group it, because remember, all these are different elements. I'll highlight everything. Whatever you want to highlight, you highlight from outside and you capture everything. If you want to highlight things in the container, you start from outside and you draw the line and you highlight the things in the container. If you start from inside, it will highlight the container. So if I want to highlight the container and everything inside, I can do that. And then I highlight everything. It tells you already see the limit thing that has already been set here, the blue line outline. You can tell that all these things have been highlighted. I right click and then I can group all these things together. So if I click on group, then it turns purple. And that means that all these elements are now together, right? They're all grouped. I cannot take this one away separately. They're all part of the same thing. So it's really important when you're creating a detailed wireframe and you want things to stay where you put them. Because otherwise, if I undo or I right click and I ungroup, then if I want to move this one, it's moved. Maybe I want to move this. I've just scattered everything. So if I've painstakingly looked and I've seen how everything looks and it looks well, it looks good, then I want to say, okay, let me lock it together. Then you can group everything together and it groups it together. Then you can also lock your what do they call it? You can also lock your canvas. Where was it? I just saw it now.
I wonder if I can ask a question as you're doing this.
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, so for the project that we have, is it possible that more than one BA is working on the software itself? Say, for instance, we all have our boards, and I know that my team, they've actually split the work. Now, if all of us, for instance, just happen to have the same time, or probably during our stand-up, and we are all work, is it possible that we are all working at the same time, or it has to be
Yeah, now see,
one person
everybody's
having
here.
access?
But I showed you all the people that are here. This
Okay.
is Samai. This is Raphael. This is Rita. They're all here
Oh, so
at the
it's more
same
like
time.
you having it,
No,
every
I didn't
changes you are
create all
every
of
changes
this.
you are making, everybody's
They're all
having.
creating all of this. So
All
as
right.
we're talking, they're all. I'm sure some other people are on their own boards creating other things as well. So
Okay.
they're all. I didn't do this. Oh, or did I? I think I did. Where's the other thing?
Yeah,
So
all the boards, yes.
yeah, so there are people that are working simultaneously. So why I'm going through all of this is I'm like, don't step on other people's toes.
All
If
right.
I've spent time creating a board, if you didn't create the board, leave it alone. Unless somebody
Okay.
says, please, can you go to that my wireframe and make this particular change? If you didn't create it, leave it alone.
All
What
right.
you can do is, if you want to build from it, is duplicate it and then start using the duplicated one, rename it, put your name there, and start using the duplicated one.
Cool.
Okay.
Yeah.
And
Thanks.
like I said, you can highlight all the different things and not only group them together, you can also lock them. So if I lock this, then no one can do anything again on it. I've done with this. Nobody should touch my slide, please. I'm done. Like, it's fine. I want to share it with the PO. Please leave my slide alone so I can lock it. But again, anybody can duplicate your slide and start using it. So you locking it is for your own what do they call it? Your own personal satisfaction. You can group it, you can lock it, and all of that. I'm done with it. Please, no one should. So if someone comes and unlocks something, then you're looking for trouble. Unfortunately, you can't really tell who is doing what. I'll check and see. I don't think you can. Azure, you can. That's why I love Azure DevOps. You
That was
can
going
tell
to be
who
my
did what.
next question.
Yeah, you can tell who did what, but here you can. So we just have to be honorable. We can work together. There's nobody here that is dishonorable. So if we've agreed that our ways of working is that you leave people's work alone. If you want to build on it, you duplicate it and work on it, then that's what we're going to do. So no one is just going to go behind the other person's back and scatter anybody's work. I don't think there's anybody with that kind of bad mind here. So the only time people do it is if they don't know. They're doing it innocently. They're like, oh, okay, there's a landing page here. I might as well use it for my work. Fair enough, because you're all working with the same application. You guys cannot have different pages. So once you agree, and then not just even that, once it's approved by the PO, you build on it because it's approved. So if the PO has approved your landing page and you want to say, okay, from the landing page, I want to click on the About Us page, and you're building on the About Us page from the landing page, then that means the landing page is a landing page. It's been approved. It's in the vault. It's gone. It's done. So any page you're building from that, or anytime you want to add that, because you can have multiple wireframes on one user story. I'll show you what some of that could look like, right? And examples on how to use that. So you don't start building the wireframe and landing page again. It's been approved. It's done. It's dusted. Now we want to create additional pages. So we build from that one and take it further. That's where your duplicate button and all those things come. So just very quickly, I will show you some of these very finished.
Can I just quickly ask a question? I don't know if I can jump in.
Yeah, go ahead. Yeah, go ahead.
So once you've done your wireframe, how do you put it on the board? Like, how do you actually
Very
put it on
good
the board?
question. So, what should I use? Let's use this one again. It's already 11, and that's what usually happens with this, because I really wanted us to actually work on something, and do it, but it's to 11 now, so that means our time is fast spent. But you can call your mentors and go through some of this with them as well. So fixed some meetings with them to go through some of the wireframing bits. But if we can quickly do something, I think it would be a good idea too, but time. Anyway, so let's say I'm done with this and I want to add it to my board, which is a very good question, to my user story, I beg your pardon. You go to your edit button, you click on it, and you go to copy bitmap to clipboard. Normal copy won't work. Control C doesn't really work for this, right? So this button works. It says it's copy bitmap to clipboard. So if I click on it, right, then I go to my board. Let me just pick one user story, right? So this is the user story there. It already has a what did they call it? It already has a wireframe, but it's fine. Let me add this there. And I click on my control paste. It has pasted my wireframe here. So that particular button is really good. There are obviously other workarounds. Some people do snip, this is your snipping tool thing. Some people copy screen, all of that. But the tool provides you with the ability to copy all of this. So that's what you use to copy. It is the cleanest, easiest way. I do not want to save anything here. I want to discard my changes. Yeah, so I said I was going to show you what this kind of looks like. I don't know if I can find one where they have multiple wireframes. Let me see if this one has one. Okay, it's just two. I was looking for one that has multiple wireframes. So you have your acceptance criteria here. So given I'm an instructor on the website and I'm on my instructor dashboard. So the first thing you see here is the instructor dashboard, basically, right? And then you now scroll down to the page and you see the courses page and you click on it and then the course is displayed. So we've gone from the instructor dashboard and we moved to a courses page that has to be displayed. That means that you need another wireframe. The first thing you talked about is that you're an instructor here. So this is your first wireframe. Then you go to you click on anything and it shows up. Then this is the dashboard. This is the courses, I beg your pardon. This is the courses page that is shown. So you can see the difference between, no, this is the same one. So this is not the same. This is not a good example. They put the same wireframe to the same wireframe instead of two different wireframes. Let me see if I can get another one that might be different. Okay. All right, this one is different. All right, good. So this is a good example as well. So I think there are 5 or 6 different wireframes here. And there are different scenarios. So I have one scenario that talks about I'm on the header of any website, right? So this is where you start from, your precondition. So the first thing is I'm on the header. You can tell that they're on the header and they list everything that should be on the header. So this is what it looks like from that first perspective. Then the second scenario is I see the ellipsis button, right? And I see all these different things and I click on it and I see these things and I click on it. So let's go to the second one. So I click on the ellipsis. Remember they talked about ellipsis, but they click on it and they see a whole other set of buttons are displayed. So that's how you keep going. Every time you see a new page is displayed, there is a corresponding page, a wireframe. So there's no scenario that is described that doesn't come with its own wireframe. So that way the developer knows, okay, this is what it's going to look like when I'm done developing it. This is where everything is going to stay. It doesn't mean that it's going to be white, or obviously it's going to be three-dimensional. You have a real image here, but if I'm a developer, I know exactly where everything is. My logo is here, my homepage is here, my blog courses. I know where everything looks. I know where the profile button is. This is the instructor. If I click on the drop down, all these things drop down. If I click on one of the buttons, all these things are displayed. So it's very clear. Look at all the amount of things that need to be gone through. The QAs need to test it. It's too much information to start picturing mentally. It's so much easier if I know what it looks like. So you can see they even told you this is for scenario 2. This is for scenario 1 to 8. This is for scenario 4. So the developer is not confused. The QA is not confused. They know exactly, if I click on ABCD, this is what is shown, right? It's all very sketchy. Of course, it doesn't look like this in real life, but you can tell that by the time it's done, this is how it's going to be arranged. So this is an example of a perfect use of your wireframe that goes ahead with your story. So you have your description, your as a, I want so that. Then you now have your acceptance criteria, and you have different scenarios. So this is scenario 1, this is scenario 2, this is scenario 3, so you have all 8 scenarios. Then you now have the corresponding wireframes. And they've told you for scenario 1, this is the wireframe you need to look at. For scenario 2, this is the wireframe, and so on and so forth. So this is a BA I want to work with. This is a BA that has made, as a QA, as a developer, you have made my life easy. I not only have the acceptance criteria, but I know what it looks like. You've shown me exactly what it looks like. Shikena, 100% is approved. Of course it's approved. Why won't it be approved? So this is a real world example of what obviously this is very detailed. This is in the advanced team. Your wireframes will not be this detailed, obviously. I don't know that you have, maybe you have scenarios further down. Right now, you guys are just dealing with just your given when then. So it's all very simplified. But this is just an example of what the finished thing looks like. You have your description, you have the acceptance criteria, you have your wireframe. 1, 2, 3, we're done. Yeah? Any questions for me? Okay.
I think I have one.
Yeah, go ahead.
Because thank you so much for the training, and it makes plenty of sense to me. Now I'm trying to visualize all that you're saying. So I don't know if I'm thinking too much ahead of myself, or I'm just giving myself extra burden. At the end of a project, right? So like the project that we'll be given, is it possible that that project might have like 100 sprints, and at the end of all the 100 sprint, the end product, is it always going to be like a website or an app or a tech product? I don't know if you understand what I'm saying.
Yeah, I do.
Because I'm looking at all of this. You talked about the landing page. The landing page will probably have all of the success, the criteria, and also the requirements, and then the wireframe, and then you pass that on to the developer. And then once we're done, because I know one of the things that the PO for my team said, he said he just wants the page to be static. That if you click anything, nothing's happening. So then I'm now thinking to myself, so what if we've done that bit? Then we go to the header, and then you're looking at maybe all the instructors, each instructor's page. Is that a different sprint project on itself?
Yeah, so there are massive projects and there are little projects, right? There are projects that take years. Sometimes they're broken down into phases. So let's just deliver this phase and then we'll move over to the next phase and move over to the next phase. And it just keeps going. Sometimes a project can be short. It can be really quick. Like the one you're working on now is a really quick one. Yeah, so you usually take it. The beauty of the agile framework when working on projects is I know that at the end of the day, this is the product we're looking to produce at the end of the day, but we're taking it one step at a time. Because if you start thinking of everything together, it could be really, really confusing. So some people have done, especially when you have a product owner, they've done some of that thinking for you. They already know what they want and they've broken it down into, okay, for this particular sprint, this is the value I want to get. That's what I love. Time you have your sprint mandate and your sprint goal. We know what we have a roadmap. Yes, just like you're going from London to Manchester. You know, this thing is going to take me 4-5 hours. You know the road you're going to use, but it's 1 mile at a time, 1 mile at a time. You can't get to mile 1,000 without doing mile 1. So someone has already gone to create a roadmap of what the whole thing looks like. Sometimes they share it with you, sometimes they may not share it with you, it's fair enough. But they've now come to you and say, okay, let's start with mile 1. For mile 1, just give me this thing. This is the thing I want. Just give me this thing. And then you work on it and give them that thing and you go in and you give value. For mile 2, add on to that thing. We've delivered for the first sprint. For sprint 2, add on to it. Give me these deliverables. And you focus on those deliverables and you add on it. For sprint 3, and you keep adding on it. Before you know it, when you look back, you can see the finished thing. You can see the full thing. They may have been giving you the deliverables sprint by sprint by sprint, and you may not have been able to see the full picture. But sometimes, if you are privy to some of those conversations, you could tell what it's supposed to look like. You will know the finished product. This is what we want at the end of the day. And you should know. In fact, you guys even have the project mandates. So you do know what it's supposed to look like. But someone has gone to do the work. It could be your APM. It could be your product owner. They've broken it down into chunks of work. Because we need to be able to do one before the other. If we don't organize it this way, we're going to get into trouble. So let me give you an example, right? You guys have deliverables for sprint 1. I can guarantee that not all those deliverables were done yesterday. Some of you might have, you had maybe like 15 requirements, but you're only able to do 3. Even though your PO is going to be giving you requirements for sprint 2, your project cannot start sprint 2 until they finish sprint 1. You have to. Because you cannot, if for example, your sprint 1 goals is to create static home pages, about us, all of that. Sprint 2 is to add functionality. So the first page was static. The second one is to now make it, functional. If I click on something will happen. If you have not developed the button, what are they adding functionality to? So that's why you have to do it bit by bit by bit by bit. And you have to make sure as much as possible you finish sprint 1 deliverables before sprint 2. Otherwise, you're going to put your project on the back foot. You're already behind because you did not finish sprint 1. And it happens. It happens. I was working with an APM in our advanced team, not in the real advanced team. And she was like, we weren't able to do get our deliverables done for the first month. It was a 3-month project. We're not able to get our deliverables done for the first month. So for month 2, we're going to do month 1 and month 2 together. We're like, how? You can't do 2 things at the same. You don't have the capacity for it. So you may just have to find a way to either speed up the process, maybe do bit by bit by bit by bit and share it across, or you go back to your stakeholders and say, we're really sorry because of A, B, C, D, things that were beyond my whatever. I couldn't do anything about it. Were beyond my help or whatever the phrase is. We were behind. We need additional time. Because you're working with human beings. Either they give you more people to get that work done within that time, or you get an extension. So all these things are managed, right? They're all managed. Some projects are massive. you have projects that are multi-year. They are going on and on and on and on. They finish this chunk, they'll move it aside, they'll move on to another chunk. So if you come onto the project, you could see loads of PBIs. That's where your epics and your features and your all of that order in your backlog, you have to do it. If you just create PBIs willy-nilly, you're putting people in a mess, because there are people that have come onto an Azure board and they're just seeing PBI. Where is this PBI? Which one is it linked to? Which feature is it linked to? It's a mess. Before people work, sometimes they have to manage, clean up their backlog, organize it. But if you as a BA, you already start organizing as you go along, then people are going to want to work with you because they know that you have an ordered mind. You know what to do. You're not creating a mess for someone to clean up later. So yes, you're going to meet projects that are massive, but you're not thinking, you look at it because you're like, okay, this is what we're going to get at the end of the day. But when it comes to the actual work, you need to take it one step at a time, bit by bit by bit by bit, until you get it done. And that's managed on a project team level. So you have your PO who is giving you the chunk, you have your scrum master, you have your QA, your developer. Sometimes you can go to developer and the developer says, I don't have the capacity to do this thing. I'm too busy, I have too much doing. So yes, I know you want all of these things done in sprint 1, but I'm working on 3 other projects. I don't have the time. So I can only do a little bit for you. It's up to the APM to manage that resource. So all these things are things that happen within, and sometimes conversely, the developer can get it done. It was supposed to be done in a sprint. In 3 days, they've done it. And that means you now have time to even add more. So you're even now telling the BAs, oh, we need more stories. Oh, all the stories you guys gave us, we're done with it. Give us more stories. And as a BA, as a best practice, you want to be 2 sprints ahead. You don't want to be in a situation where your project team is asking you for stories. You always want to be 2 sprints ahead. You have more than enough stories for 2 sprints. So if they finish early, there's still enough stories in the backlog for them to work on. It's not like, oh, they finished and they're like, okay, BA, we're waiting for you to write stories. You don't want to be in that position. So all these things are ways to manage your project. I hope that helps.
Very well. Thank you. And then one last question, I promise.
Yes, sure.
Last one. Do BAs work in the product life cycle?
100%.
Okay.
We're all part of the same project team. So we don't work, even though we say we work ahead of sprint, the sprint is still part of the project. We're still part of the project team.
No, I mean product life cycle.
Yeah. Okay. So it depends. Again, there are people that use the project model and people that use the product model, right? So in my organization, we do both. They are trying to transition us from the project model to the product model, but at the moment it's a dual system. Some people want only product owners, because again, if the product owner knows what the requirements are, all the product owner needs to do is to document it. That's it. So why am I giving it to someone else to do the documentation? But some other organizations understand that these are 2 different roles, and to put everything on one person is quite a lot. So they split it. Sometimes some organizations don't have product owners, they only have BAs. So the BA now has to go and do what the product owner does, which is go and speak to the business and get the requirements from the business and document it and share it with the development team. So companies are built different. That's why when you're interviewing, most people think you're just interviewing to get the job. You're interviewing the company as well. How do you guys manage your projects? What are your project teams like? Do you use the project model or do you use the product model? Are there POs that I can work with, or is it just BAs? These are questions you can ask them, because you want to know the kind of organization you're coming to. What kind of work are you going to have me do? Right? You've only told me what the JD is. What kind of projects are you running? Are you, so these are the kind of questions you ask going into the interview, because you're like, oh, I prefer working with the product owner. Oh, I don't mind being the BA there. I'll do the work myself. At least going in, so it depends on the organization. For there are so many different organizations, but like I said, my organization now, they are very much into the product model. So they're training people on the product model, and they're like, oh, let's switch. But they know they can't switch very quickly. They're trying to ease everyone into it. But for my business units, they basically said, we're going to run both of them. There's some projects we cannot do with the product model. You can't do, I think there's some construction, there's some kinds of projects you cannot really do with the product model. Product model is mostly suited for like software technology, but there's some other, we do a bit of construction as well. So there's some things like that you can't really use a product model for. It doesn't really work. So you have to use the project model. So they are basically running both of them concurrently, depending on what the initiative is. So companies are different, projects are different. So you educate yourself. If you look at the JD and they tell you we run a product model based what they call it, we have initiatives, then go and educate yourself on what the product model looks like. But it's very similar to what a BA does. That's why sometimes they'll just get a BA or sometimes they just get a PO. And yeah, but most organizations, good organizations, get both because it's a lot to put on one role. So yeah, cool.
Thank you.
You're very welcome. Any other questions? Okay, we didn't leave enough time to actually go on the wireframing tool to actually do some of this. So guys, I know I didn't give you as much as I would have liked, especially when it comes to the practical bit. So please reach out to your mentors and schedule wireframing sessions with them, and then in those sessions you can bring up your user stories and then work on your user stories, and they'll basically talk you through how to do all of that. But yeah, let them help you do it. And like I said, if you're going to do, and I highly recommend that you do this, if you're going to go and do additional study on your own, please look at the newer videos on Balsamiq. If you go to the old one, you yourself will be confused. You'll be like, this doesn't look like what I have. Because like I said, I think January, February, they just completely changed their interface. So it looks different. So if you see some of the older videos, it doesn't look anything like it. So just look for the new videos or go to Balsamiq itself and learn. It's very easy to do, trust me. The people that are they're already playing with it. When you're done playing with it, guys, repurpose all of that. I'm going to delete my bits, right? I'm going to delete what I've done already, so I won't clutter up people's board. But if you're done with any practice, either you remove it and repurpose it and use it for actual work or whatever. And then if you're keeping it for practice, title it as practice. Just call it what it is, so people know that this is not really for the project. You're just using it to practice, right? So please be very good at renaming your boards or your wireframes to what exactly it is. And like I said, many of us just do header, footer, landing page. You will see that that's not descriptive enough, because I already know, like you guys said, you're doing landing page for static, whatever. Eventually, you're going to do landing page with added functionality. If you only put landing page, how will you know if this landing page is for the static or the functional one? It's so confusing. I like being descriptive. So it's not just for you. A lot of times when you work as a BA, think of the people that are going to be consuming your work. The QAs are going to be consuming your work. The developers are going to be consuming your work. So you work for them. The PO is going to be consuming your work. You're not working for yourself. So you want to make the work easy for them to follow and to use. If you don't, they may not come and tell you anything because they work with what they see. But those that you make their life easy, they will be able to tell, and they'll always want to come and work with you. Always. That's where you'll be getting good reviews. If you're on a contract, they will extend your contract. If you're on a permanent, whatever, you get a bonus. People tell you, I want to work with this BA. They may not come and tell you why. It's just a little extra effort you put in. They will notice it, that this person's acceptance criteria is so good. They make my life easy. They put all the artifacts I need. I don't have to chase them for anything. They'll be like, please, I want to work with this person. I want to work with this person. I like getting all those things because I'm a permanent staff. So at the end of the day, when they start doing reviews, I go back to all the people I work with. Could you please give me my review? By the time I go back to my manager, I have reviews. So they're like, well done. You've done quite a lot, because you can't just go and say I did enough. People you work with are the ones that will tell you, I enjoyed working with 𝐂𝐎𝐍𝐍. Her artifacts were really good. Blah, 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 blah. I would love to work with her again. What can I improve? Oh, nothing. Or, oh, next time, if you do this and do that and do that. And then your manager can look at all that and say, okay, you've done really well. I've seen all of that. And then if you need to be promoted or you need a bonus or whatever, you get it. So all these things, you're doing it for yourself. You're doing it so that you can, establish very good rapport with the people you're working with. And at the end of the day, they either retain you if you're a contract, or they promote you or give you your flowers if you're permanent. So yeah. All right. I think I've overshot my time by a lot. So like I said, we still have the Friday session. That one again is an AMA. So you guys, it's on you. Although I already know some of the things I would like to talk to you about, like I said, which is your demo. What was the second thing? Oh yeah, the parenting thing. I don't know how many of you parented your user stories, your PBIs. How many of you did?
I have.
Yeah, you're in Nexus. So Nexus team did awesome. Thank you. You guys were brilliant
I think we
yesterday.
did as well. We did as well in Excel.
You did, yeah?
Yep.
So your all your PBIs are all connected, right?
Yeah, parent to child.
Fantastic. Then there are some others that may not know what we're talking about. And these are things you need to do as part of your backlog management. Don't ever just be creating PBIs willy-nilly. You will make life easy and very difficult for yourself and your product owner and your team. So BAs, we always make sure that our stories are parented. So we'll go through that again. And even for you guys that did, there are other ways to add related stories. We'll talk it there. So apart from the parenting bits, you can link PBIs. So if there are particular PBIs that are connected to each other, rather than leave them for the QAs or whoever to pick up as and when, you can literally link it onto the board. So if I pick up a story, yes, this story has the invest criteria. It's clear, straight to the point, all of that, short chunks. But on the other side, I can see all the other stories that are linked to it. They're not parented, they're linked. So it makes work. They're just little things, but they make work easy. They make life so easy. Especially if you have like a huge backlog that you have to, you want to pull your hair out. I'm telling you, it's just horrible. But when someone takes the time to link all those stories, hey, whoever it is, you're like, God bless you. And in fact, in Azure DevOps, you can tell who did it. So it's very easy. So yeah, we can talk about that on Friday. And if you guys have any questions based on anything we've done so far, that would be the good avenue to talk about. We can even talk more about wireframing then. Then I can, if you have questions regarding your user stories for the project, I can answer that one. But I won't be able to answer it in this class. So yeah, that's it for me. Thank you guys very much. Any questions before we go?
My question, this is a technical question, so I don't know if you're the right person or should I go back to my Scrum Master, because I've joined the Balsamic on my phone, so I can access it on my phone, but I really want to use it on my laptop. But when I go on the laptop, it just gives me an error. So it gave me an error message, and then I try to log in, and that's where the credential. I don't know the credential to log in.
Okay. Rita, you can stop recording because now we're going into Balsamic problem solving. So you can stop recording now. I think for all those who have issues with Balsamic, we can go through it. And anybody else, if